chosen one. There is something happening inside you right now. Something that cannot be explained with logic. Something that woke you up before your alarm. Something that made you pause in the middle of an ordinary moment and feel like you were meant for something far greater than the life you are currently living. And you are right. You have always been right about that feeling. Because that feeling is not anxiety, it is not overthinking, it is not you being dramatic or lost or confused. That feeling is a calling. And today, right now, in this exact moment, you are being shown something that will change the entire direction of your life if you stay until the end. Chosen one, listen carefully. This is not random. You did not find this video by accident. There are millions of videos on this platform. Millions of messages, millions of distractions, millions of reasons your thumb could have kept scrolling. But it stopped here, on this. And you need to understand something before we go any further. The fact that you are watching this right now is itself a confirmation. God does not waste timing. And your time is running out to keep ignoring the work you were born to carry. Type yes if this speaks to your spirit. You may have noticed something about yourself lately. Something quiet but unmistakable. You feel different from the people around you. Not better, not worse, just different. Like you are living in the same world as everyone else, but experiencing it on a completely different frequency. Like the conversations that excite them leave you feeling hollow. Like the things they chase, the status, the noise, the surface-level success, feel meaningless to you at a depth that you cannot always explain. And because you cannot explain it, you have sometimes wondered if something is wrong with you. You have wondered why you cannot just be like everyone else. Why you cannot just be satisfied with ordinary. Why your soul keeps restlessly reaching for something more. Something real, something that actually matters. Nothing about your life has been accidental. Not the restlessness. Not the reaching. Not even the pain that came with it. There is a reason you are hearing this today. And that reason is bigger than you have yet allowed yourself to believe. Let me tell you something that you may have never heard anyone say to you directly. The work you are called to do on earth, the real work, the divine work, the work that was written into your spirit before you were even born. It is not what most people think of when they hear the word purpose. It is not a job title. It is not a talent showcase. It is not something you earn through years of perfect behavior or figured out through a personality test. The work you are called to carry is something far deeper, far more sacred, and far more urgent than you realize. Because here is what most people never tell you. There is a deadline on your awakening that has nothing to do with your physical age. There is a window of time where God is calling you to step into your assignment, and every day that passes where you stay asleep to it, every day that passes where you let fear, distraction, the opinions of others, or your own unresolved pain keep you from finishing the work that was meant to come through you. That window gets harder to walk through. Not impossible, but harder. And you have already felt this, haven't you? That quiet urgency that follows you, that low-level spiritual pressure that you sometimes mistake for stress or anxiety. That feeling like time is moving differently for you than it used to. Like something is asking you, gently at first, and now with increasing intensity, to stop delaying and start becoming. Comment Amen if you feel chosen. Here is what I need you to understand about chosen ones, about people like you. The path you walk is not walked by everyone. And I do not say that to inflate your ego or make you feel superior to the people around you. I say it because you need to hear the truth about why your life has looked the way it has. Why certain things were taken from you before you felt ready to release them. Why certain relationships ended in ways that still ache when you think too long about them. Why you have been through seasons of profound isolation, seasons where the silence around you was so loud it became its own kind of noise. Why you have carried weights that were never explained to you, survived storms that were never announced, and emerged from chapters of your life changed in ways that other people could not always see or understand. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to be. And the sooner you stop trying to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold what you carry, the sooner the real work can begin. Because here is the truth about the work you are called to do. It begins with you. It begins inside you. Before it can touch anyone else, before it can heal anyone, inspire anyone, shift anyone, it has to move through you first. And that is what God has been doing in these quiet, difficult, confusing seasons of your life. That is the meaning behind the isolation. That is the purpose behind the pain. That is why things were stripped away that you thought you needed, relationships dissolved that you thought would last, doors closed on paths you were certain were yours to walk. It was not punishment. It was preparation. It was the divine hand of something far wiser than human understanding, carefully crafting the very instrument through which the work would eventually flow. Type 777, if you trust God's timing, you are that instrument. And you are almost ready. But almost is not finished. And that is why this message had to find you today. There are things you have been putting off. You know what they are. You do not need me to name them. They live in that quiet corner of your mind where you go when the world gets loud and you let yourself be honest for a moment. The project you have not started. The conversation you have been avoiding. The healing you have been circling but not walking into. The gift you have been holding back because you were not sure the world was ready, or you were not sure you were ready, or you were not sure it was even real. The calling you have been negotiating with, telling yourself you will begin when the conditions are better, when you have more resources, when the fear is smaller, when the timing feels right. Chosen one. The timing is right now. The conditions will never be perfect. The fear will not disappear before you start. And the divine does not wait for your comfort to run out before it stops calling. This is your confirmation. This right here. This moment. This is God, the universe, the source of all things, whatever name you use for the sacred. This is that force looking directly at you through this message and saying, "It is time. Finish the work, do the thing, take the step, make the call, write the words, begin the healing. Step into the room. Say yes to the path that terrifies you because you feel it more deeply than the path that makes sense. That terror is not a warning to stop. That terror is the signal that you are standing at the edge of something real. Type 111 to affirm this message. Now let me tell you something about the attacks. Because if you are truly a chosen one, if you are genuinely carrying an assignment that has the power to shift things in this world, then you have experienced what I am about to describe. You have experienced moments where everything seemed to fall apart, right at the very moment you were about to rise. You have experienced setbacks that arrived with suspicious timing, Just when you found momentum, just when something started to feel possible, just when the light became visible at the end of the tunnel. You have experienced doubt that was not entirely your own, heaviness that settled over you with no clear explanation. The sudden urge to quit, to disappear, to shrink back into the ordinary life you had been fighting to move beyond. That is not coincidence. That is opposition. And opposition only shows up for things that matter. You do not spend energy attacking something that poses no threat. And the forces that work against awakening, against purpose, against the rise of those who carry the kind of light you carry. They know what you carry before you fully do. They have always known. That is why the resistance started early in your life. That is why certain things were made difficult for you when they seemed effortless for others. That is why you have sometimes felt like you were fighting battles that nobody else could see. Because you were, and you are. And the fact that you are still here, still watching this, still reaching, still seeking, that itself is a kind of miracle. That itself is evidence of the protection that has been covering you, even in the moments you felt completely uncovered. Even in your hardest moments, something was watching over you. Like this video if you feel this confirmation. Let me speak directly to the exhaustion now. Because I know it is there. Chosen ones carry a particular kind of tired that rest alone cannot fix. It is not the exhaustion of the body, though that is often there too. It is a deep spiritual weariness. The tiredness that comes from seeing what most people do not see. From feeling what most people have learned to numb. From caring with a depth that this world rarely rewards and often punishes. From being the person who absorbs the pain of the people around you, who senses the energy in a room before anyone speaks, who can feel when something is wrong even when everyone insists everything is fine. That kind of sensitivity is extraordinary, but it is also, at times, absolutely exhausting. And what makes it harder is the isolation. The particular aloneness of being someone whose depth is difficult to find a match for. The experience of being surrounded by people while simultaneously feeling deeply unseen. The longing for someone who can meet you at the level where you actually live. Not the surface level where most interactions happen, but the deep water, the real conversations, the honest place. You may have wondered if that longing would ever be met. You may have wondered if you were simply too much, too intense, too sensitive, too different to ever feel truly known and truly loved at the depth you needed. I need you to hear this clearly. That longing was not a sign of your brokenness. That longing was a sign of your depth. And depth always eventually finds its match. But not before it has been tested. Not before it has been stretched beyond what it thought it could hold. Not before it has been asked to stand alone in the silence long enough to discover that it can. Type 222 if you are ready for breakthrough. You have been being asked to stand in that silence, and you have been doing it. Even on the days you felt like you were falling apart. Even on the days you questioned everything you thought you knew about yourself, about God, about your purpose, about whether any of this means what you have always believed it meant. You have been standing, and that standing, that refusal to finally break even when everything inside you said you should have, that is not weakness dressed in the costume of strength. That is actual strength, the kind that cannot be manufactured, the kind that only comes through going through. God has been preparing you. and the preparation is nearly complete. But there is a final piece, and this is the piece most chosen ones miss. This is the place where many people who were called to carry something great put it down, not because they gave up entirely, but because they never finished the specific work that was meant to precede all the other work. They started everything else: the relationships, the building, the outward movement, the reaching toward the world, before they finished the inner work, the private work, the work between themselves and God, the work of complete surrender, the work of releasing the identity that was formed in pain and stepping into the identity that was designed before pain ever entered the picture. This is not random. This is not a general spiritual message that could apply to anyone. This is speaking to something specific in you, something you know, something you have been circling. There is a piece of you that is still not fully surrendered. There is a part of you that is still holding something back from the fullness of your calling, not out of disobedience, not out of laziness, out of fear, out of the very human and very understandable fear that full surrender might mean full loss. That giving everything to this purpose might mean releasing the last few things you have been trying to protect. And you are right that it might mean that. What you have not yet fully understood is that what comes after that release is not emptiness. It is not loss. It is not the terrifying void that fear tells you it will be. What comes after full surrender is the fullness of what you were always meant to carry. Type yes, if this speaks to your spirit right now. Let me tell you about the people who are waiting for you, because they are real, and they are out there. And they are waiting in the way that people wait who do not yet know what they are waiting for. They are in pain you have the specific capacity to address. They are confused in ways that your particular clarity was designed to cut through. They are broken in the precise places where your own breaking and healing created the most powerful medicine. They are lost in the specific darkness that your light was shaped to illuminate. And they are waiting. And every day that the fullness of your work remains incomplete inside you, every day that you choose the delay, the distraction, the comfort of not yet, they are waiting without the help they need. This is not meant to place guilt on you. This is meant to place the weight of truth on you. Because sometimes chosen ones need to feel the full weight of their responsibility before they find the courage to stop waiting for permission to step into it. You do not need permission. You have already been given it. The permission was written into your soul before you arrived in this body. The assignment was placed inside you before you had words to describe it. Everything that has happened since then, every joy, every wound, every moment of beauty, every season of darkness, every person who came and went, every door that opened and every door that closed. It was all the curriculum. You have been in school, and school is almost over. And the world needs what you learned. Comment Amen if you feel this in your bones. There is something else I need to tell you. Something that the enemy of your progress does not want you to hear. You have been told, sometimes directly, sometimes through the accumulated weight of experience, that you are too late, that the window passed, that the people who were supposed to do great things already did them, that the world has moved on and your moment came and went without you noticing. You have felt the particular despair of that lie in your quieter moments. You have wondered if you missed your chance. You have looked at the lives of others who seem further along and felt that specific ache that comes from believing your season has already expired. This is a lie. This is the oldest lie that has ever been told to a chosen one who was standing at the edge of their breakthrough. It is the lie that stops more destinies than any other. Because it does not feel like a lie. It feels like logic. It feels like honest self-assessment. It feels reasonable and grounded and adult. But it is none of those things. It is a spiritual attack dressed in the clothing of realism. And it has one purpose: to get you to put down the work before you finish it. Listen carefully. There is no expiration date on divine purpose. There is no age limit on calling. There are no conditions that make God's plan for your life too late to execute. Every single moment that you are still breathing is a moment in which the work can still be done, and the impact can still be made, and the life you were created to live can still begin. Right now, today, in the next moment of decision you make. Type 777 if you believe it is not too late for you. Now, I want to talk about what finishing the work actually looks like. Because I think there is a version of this message that people hear and feel deeply, but then walk away from, without knowing what to actually do differently. And I do not want that to happen to you. I want this to be the message that actually moves you. So let me be specific. Finishing the work starts with ruthless honesty. Not the kind of honesty that tears you apart. Not self-condemnation disguised as self-awareness. The kind of honesty that looks at your life with clear and compassionate eyes and asks, where am I still hiding? Where am I still small? Where am I performing growth instead of doing it? Where am I using busyness to avoid the one thing that is actually being asked of me right now? Where have I been pouring my energy into things that come before the thing? Relationships, content, activity, movement, while the core thing, the assignment, the real work, remains untouched. Because here is the pattern that most chosen ones fall into without realizing it. They are busy. They are genuinely, sincerely, exhaustingly busy with good things. They are doing the work of helping others, building things, showing up, growing. And all of it is real and valuable, and none of it is wrong. But beneath all of it, quietly, consistently ignored, there is the specific thing that was asked of them first. There is the finishing of the internal work that was supposed to precede all the outward work. There is the healing that was supposed to happen before the helping, the surrender that was supposed to precede the service, the becoming that was supposed to come before the doing. And they keep doing, and helping, and building. And none of it lands the way it was supposed to, because the foundation beneath it is still incomplete. Type 111 if you know exactly what this is pointing to in your life. Chosen one, you know what your first work is. You have always known. It has been whispering to you from beneath every other thing you have been doing. It has been the quiet constant in the background of your louder life. It is the thing that asks for your attention in the moments before you fall asleep, and the moments before you are fully awake. It is the thing you have been circling your whole life without fully landing on. And I am asking you today, no, something greater than me is asking you today, to stop circling, to land, to sit down in the center of the most honest version of yourself, and finally do the work that everything else in your life depends on. Because until that work is finished, everything else is operating at a fraction of its potential. Your relationships are missing a layer of depth they were meant to have. Your creativity is flowing through a pipe that is only partially open. Your impact on the world is real, but it is less than half of what it could be. Your peace is present, but it is surface-level peace, not the deep, unshakable peace that becomes available on the other side of complete surrender. Everything you have built, everything you have become, every way you already show up in the world, it is beautiful. And it is not finished. And the finishing cannot happen in the outward world. It has to happen first inside you. Even in your hardest moments, God was building this. Even when it felt like destruction. Even when it felt like abandonment. Even when the silence was so heavy, you thought it meant absence. It never meant absence. It meant something was being constructed in the quiet that could not be built in the noise. Like this video, if you feel the truth of that landing in you right now, let me tell you what is on the other side of this. Because you need to be able to see it. You need to be able to feel it before you get there, so that the walk toward it feels possible and worth it, rather than theoretical and distant. On the other side of finishing this inner work, on the other side of the surrender, the healing, the honest completion of what God asked you to do first, there is a version of you that you have glimpsed in your best moments and lost sight of in your hardest ones. A version of you that is fully aligned, fully present, fully operative. Moving through the world, not from a place of striving and proving and performing, but from a place of deep, unshakable knowing. Knowing who you are, knowing what you carry, knowing that you are exactly where you are supposed to be doing, exactly what you are supposed to be doing. And knowing, finally, completely knowing, that it is enough, that you are enough, that the work you are doing is enough to matter even when you cannot see all the ways it matters. That version of you is not far. It is not theoretical. It is not available only to certain people or only in certain circumstances. It is the version of you that is waiting on the other side of the one thing you have been putting off finishing. Type 222 if you are ready to become that version of yourself. And here is something beautiful that I need you to carry with you from this message. The very sensitivity that has sometimes felt like a burden. The depth of your feeling. The intensity of your inner life. The way you absorb the world around you at frequencies that other people do not even register. That is not a flaw in your design. That is the design. That is the very mechanism through which your calling operates. A healer who cannot feel would not be able to heal. A light bearer who was not sensitive to the dark would not know where to shine. A person called to awaken others cannot be fully asleep themselves. Your sensitivity is your superpower. Your depth is your gift. Your difference is not the thing standing between you and your purpose. Your difference is the purpose. You were built for this specific work. Not a version of the work. Not an approximation of the work. This exact work. With this exact combination of experience and pain and insight and gift and sensitivity and strength. There is no one else who can do what you were sent here to do. That sounds like a weight, and I know it does. But it is also the most liberating truth you will ever sit with. Because it means comparison is meaningless. It means your path does not have to look like anyone else's path. It means your timeline is not running behind someone else's timeline. It means the unique and sometimes strange and always profound shape of your life has not been a mistake or a detour or a sign of failure. It has been the precise and intentional crafting of the instrument through which your work will flow. This is not random. You were not assembled carelessly. Every piece of you was chosen. Comment Amen if you believe that about yourself right now, and even if you do not fully believe it yet, type it anyway. Let it begin as a declaration before it becomes a certainty. Now I want to address something that chosen ones rarely hear addressed. The grief, the particular grief that comes with this kind of awakening. Because awakening is not only joy, it is not only clarity and light and the sudden beautiful relief of understanding your purpose. It is also the grief of realizing how long you spent not understanding it. The grief of the years that passed while you were asleep. The grief of the version of yourself that suffered through confusion when the clarity was always available. The grief of relationships that could not survive the awakening. People who loved the version of you that existed before you started to remember who you actually were. People who needed you to stay small in order for them to feel safe. People who left when you started to rise because rising made them face the fact that they had chosen not to. That grief is real and it deserves space. And if you have been pushing it aside in the name of spiritual progress, if you have been bypassing the grief in order to get to the growth, that is one of the things that needs to be finished. You cannot fully step into what is next until you have fully honored what had to go. The people, the old versions of yourself, the dreams that transformed into something unrecognizable. The life you thought you were building before the call interrupted it. All of it deserves to be held. All of it deserves to be released properly. And when it is, when you give yourself permission to grieve all of it completely, something extraordinary happens. The grief alchemizes. It does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes fuel. It becomes depth. It becomes the very substance of your empathy for others who are still in the middle of what you survived. Your pain is not separate from your purpose. Your pain is part of your purpose. Type yes if you are ready to let your pain become your power. There is a reason you are hearing this today. And I want to be very direct about what that reason is. Something is about to shift for you. Not because of magic, not because the universe has decided to suddenly be kind to you after years of difficulty, but because you are at a threshold, a genuine one. A moment in your personal timeline where the inner work has been almost done long enough that the finishing of it is actually accessible in a way it has not been before. Where the surrender that once seemed terrifying is now simply necessary, and you know it. Where the calling that once whispered is now speaking in full voice, and you can no longer pretend not to hear it. This is one of those moments. And those moments do not come constantly. They do not come on demand. They arrive when the preparation has reached its completion point. When the student is finally ready for the final lesson before graduation. When the chosen one has been refined enough to carry what they are about to be given. You are at that moment right now. Which is why this message found you. Which is why something in you has been listening this entire time without wanting to stop. Which is why what you are feeling as you receive these words is not the ordinary feeling of consuming content. It is the feeling of being spoken to. Directly. Specifically. By something that knows you in ways that no algorithm could replicate. That is real. What you are feeling is real. Do not dismiss it when this video ends. Do not let the noise of the ordinary world rush back in and dilute it before it has the chance to take root. This is a seed. And what you do with it in the next few hours, whether you sit with it, pray with it, Journal with it. Take one concrete step with it. Will determine whether it grows into something that changes your life, or whether it remains a beautiful moment that passed without consequence. Please subscribe to this channel for more messages like this one. There is more that needs to be said to you. More that you need to hear. More that is being prepared for chosen ones like you who are walking this specific path at this specific time. Every video on this channel is a piece of a larger message, and that larger message is for you. Subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. What is coming next was made for exactly where you are going. Type 777 if you just subscribed or are about to. Now, let me speak to the specific nature of the work one more time, because I want to make sure it is clear before we reach the end of this message. The work you are called to do on earth, the work that must be finished before all other things, is the work of becoming. Completely, without reservation, without the armor, without the performance. Without the carefully constructed version of yourself that you show the world while the real you waits in private for permission to exist fully. The work is the becoming of your full self. The integration of every part of your story, the bright parts and the dark parts, the victorious chapters and the ones you are still ashamed of, the gifts that feel natural and the callings that still terrify you. The work is the full and courageous embrace of everything that you are and everything that you were designed to be. And the reason this work must come before everything else, before the relationships, before the building, before the impact, before the outer life you are dreaming of, is because the outer life is built on the inner one. The house is only as strong as its foundation. And a chosen one trying to build a meaningful life on an unfinished foundation will always feel the instability. Will always feel like something is missing, even when everything looks right. Will always feel the trembling beneath the structure, no matter how beautiful the surface appears. Finish the foundation. Finish the internal work. Let the becoming be complete. And then, and I promise you this, from the deepest place this message can reach, then what you build will be unshakable. Then what you create will carry the weight of something real. Then the impact you make will not be diminished by the distance between who you are presenting yourself to be and who you actually are. Because there will be no distance. There will only be you, whole, clear, grounded, fully surrendered to the work and fully equipped to carry it. Comment Amen one more time if you feel that this is exactly what you needed to hear today. You were never late. You were never wrong. You were never broken beyond repair. You were never too much or not enough, or too sensitive, or too deep, or too different for love or purpose or belonging. You were always exactly what you were supposed to be, at every stage, in every season, through every chapter, a chosen one being prepared for a work that matters, a person being refined for a purpose that is real, a soul being shaped for a contribution that the world genuinely, desperately needs. And now it is time, not tomorrow, not when the conditions improve, not when the fear gets smaller, or the confusion clears, or the path becomes more obvious. Now, in the fullness of the uncertainty, in the middle of the ongoing refinement, right here, see that water with everything that you currently are, and everything that you have been through, and everything that you do not yet fully understand about where this is going. Now is the time to finish the work you are called to do. Even in your hardest moments, this was always true. This is your confirmation. You are chosen. You are protected. You are guided. You are not alone. And the work that was written into your soul before you arrived in this world is not finished yet. It has barely begun, and it is waiting with extraordinary patience and extraordinary urgency at the same time for you to say yes. Say yes today. Type 11111 one final time if you are saying yes right now. If you are choosing in this moment to finish the work, to step into the fullness of what you carry, to stop delaying the life that God designed you for. And please subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone else who is a chosen one. Someone who has been feeling what you have been feeling. Someone who is tired and almost ready to give up on the very thing they were sent here to do. You giving them this message might be the exact thing that keeps them from putting down the work one moment before the breakthrough. That is how it works for chosen ones. We carry each other. We remind each other. We send each other the confirmation they need exactly when they need it most. That is part of your work too. Now go. Finish what was started inside you long before this life began. The world is waiting, and it has waited long enough.